Measuring volatility is one of the more challenging things to do in the market, and I want to go over some ways to do that. Traditional ways that are really not indicative of volatility, in my opinion, on a day trade basis. Then I'm going to show you another way that I'm looking at and researching right now. And let's take a look first of all at NQ daily chart. It's a volatile stock index chart. You see the uptrend since the pandemic lows. Down here at the bottom, I have an indicator daily percentage range of the last 12 days, and this is the range of the daily day session divided by its close. And so you see about 1.3% is where it is right now. It's relatively low. The volatility as a percentage of range is low. So you can't really measure volatility. Sometimes you measure volatility with ranges, but that doesn't give us the story right now. VIX is another volatility indicator. VIX is relatively low compared to where it's been in the past. So VIX doesn't really help us telling us what the low is or what the volatility is. So what else can we do? So to visualize this, for example, if the range, there's two types of bars in the market. So say just two basic type of bars. So say the range is 100 points in the NASDAQ, and it opens here, it goes straight up and closes there. That's a very trendy market. But what if it, another scenario, this is case A, another scenario is case B. Same 100-point range, but it does this during the day. It goes up, goes down, up, down, up, down, up, down. You know, it's easy in hindsight to take a look at this and say, well, it just put bracket it, you know, shorted at the highs, bought at the lows. It's usually not that symmetrical in real trading. Sometimes it is, but you can only see that in hindsight. It's hard to see it when it's happening, and finding indicators or something that gives you a clue as the market's about to reverse is tricky. It's very hard to do. And so trading this type of chop is harder. Trend is easier to trade because it's moving. You get in and you ride the move. When it's chopping, the way the market chops is not as orderly, and it's not as, you know, the market can chop in many different ways. This is just one way it can chop. It can chop in many, many, many different ways, and so that makes it difficult to trade if it's chopping in many different ways. The frequency, the amplitude, and all of that chop can be sporadic and random, but the trend is the trend. It goes, and sometimes the trend can be more wiggly, I guess, or it could be more straight line, or it can be even choppier. The straighter the line it is, the easier. But you know, when you just have surges all of a sudden all over the place and the amplitude changes, it doesn't usually look that cyclical. So how do we measure that? How do we say the market's been volatile lately and choppy lately? How do we measure that? It's hard to measure as well. And so I have this zigzag indicator. It comes in Tradestation. It's called zigzag PNTS. And I've changed the indicator a little bit. It uses the close by default. But what I've done is I've opened that indicator, and the indicator in Tradestation is called zigzag PNTS. And it uses the price right here. I changed these from price, which is a input that's set to the close, and I use the price for the swing price for the swing high as the high, and the new swing price for the swing low is the low, because in trading our risk is based on the highs to lows, and when we put in a stop loss, we don't place our stop based on if it closes at a price. I mean, if you had a stop loss that say, okay, I'm going to have a $1,000 stop loss based on the close of the day, well, it could close $2,000 lower, and you'd be a $3,000 loss instead of a $1,000 loss. So intraday, we want to do the swing highs and swing lows and not the swing closes, because that's more indicative in a choppy market like the NASDAQ futures. And so zigzag, found the zigzag PNTS. There's also zigzag percentage, and I was able to apply it to this 1 minute chart at NQ.D. So just looking at the day session, and you can see there are 14 swings yesterday at 50 points. So I formatted that indicator, format that analysis technique, and I had the zigzag PNTS that's what it looks like in Tradestation by default. If you have Tradestation, you should already have this indicator. And if you want to change it to what I have, you just simply change the price to low and and change the word price to high here. Verify it and insert your new indicator. I called mine Capstone Zigzag PNTS. And this is an indicator as a look back indicator. It will not, you might look at this and say, wow, that picks all the highs and lows. I can just buy the low and sell the high. It looks back. So it's not predictive, but it looks back, and it has to have some data to determine that. And so you can't just pick the highs and lows with this, and we're not trying to. What we're trying to do with this indicator is determine how choppy the market is, and you do see that we did get about 14 moves yesterday in the NQ. So yesterday's session was from this between these two red lines, and so you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is at 50-point moves. 6, 7. It has to be at least 50-point moves. It can be further. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Well, I counted 15 there, so maybe there's 15 moves. So I want to modify this indicator to count the number of times it actually does that. So that would be very helpful to have that information to say how many times is it moving in a 50-point range on 1-minute bars, or how many times does it move in a 25-point or 10-point or 100-point range on 1-minute or 15-minute or 5-minute bars. Can we do something with that information and use that information to say, well, this market is choppy, or if it is this choppy, we have another strategy where we can kind of trade the turning points. Maybe not exact turning points the way this indicator makes it look, but some of the turning points. So that is what I'm looking at. That's what I wanted to share with you. That is what I'm talking about when it's, we try to say, okay, well, is the market choppy? Well, based on the percentage range, that's normal. Based on the VIX, that's pretty normal. We see it in the market, but how do we quantify it for a trading system? And so the number of turning points in the day is one of the ways to do this. Now I got to figure out a way to count all these turning points and then see if this is a good way to manage a strategy, if it gives us enough information to help us improve trading systems, to not trade during a trendy period, or to trade a very counter trend method during a very choppy period. One thing you have to consider though is markets are choppy, and then maybe you say, okay, this market's choppy. Look, I've counted this many turning points, so I'm going to turn off my trend strategies, and then all of a sudden the market trends, and then you miss that trend strategy. So you have to make sure that you use it correctly. You have to make sure you don't optimize. It's another parameter to consider. I'm more likely to not turn off the trend strategies, but add some additional counter trend strategies to balance this out, to give us more diversity. If I can find counter trend strategies to work with this, I will let you know. But that is what I'm looking at right now. It's what I wanted to share with you on this Friday for October the 1st. We are still it's October the 1st, and it's still very choppy, mainly just trading the 50K portfolio right now, recommending that. There's one trade today, SR counter trend 2 ES so far. It is in the market. It is short, a few points lower than where we are now on the E-mini S&P, so down about 250 intra-trade. So the market could sell off. This is the NASDAQ. We're short the S&P. 4750 on the NASDAQ is that resistance level that I'm looking at. So it'll be interesting to see what the market does on the first trading day of the month in the new quarter. And once again, we're just looking at this right now on the NASDAQ. We'll have more details on this indicator at a later time.